Well, hello there. Come on in, have a seat. You know, my father taught me how to whittle. He wasn't professional, just a man who liked to work with his hands. He'd sit on the porch after dinner, and with a small, sharp knife, he'd turn a block of scrap pine into something, well, into something real. He'd say, "Art, there's two kinds of people in this world, son. Those who make things and those who take things. You always be a maker." I've been in the financial world for over 30 years now, and if I've learned one thing, it's that my father was right. But the line between making and taking has gotten so blurry, so faint, that most folks don't even see it anymore. They don't see it until they've stumbled over it and are falling flat on their face. The financial world, in its purest form, is supposed to be a tool for the makers. It's meant to be the plumbing of the economy. It's supposed to take the savings from folks like you and me, our nest eggs, and funnel them to people who want to build something. A new factory, a house for a young family, a new invention. It's supposed to connect capital to creation. But the plumbing, well, the plumbing's gotten clogged. And a new business has sprung up, not in channeling the water, but in betting on the leaks. Today, I want to tell you a story about a man who spent his entire life making things. He was one of the best I ever knew. And I want to tell you how, in less than 6 months, he risked it all by stepping into a world he didn't understand. A world that wasn't built for him. A world that was built to take from him. This is the story of Arthur Finley. And it's a story that, I'm sad to say, I'm seeing more and more of every single day. I want you to picture Arthur. He was 63 years old when he walked into my office the first time, but not in the way you're thinking. He wasn't a client. Not yet. He was just there in the waiting room, looking like a man who'd been told to show up for his own funeral. He was a high school woodshop teacher. For 38 years, at the same public high school in Ohio, he had taught teenagers how to turn a piece of raw lumber into a chair, a table, a bookshelf. He was a quiet man, with sawdust in his cuffs and kindness in his eyes. He had hands like old leather, callous and strong. He was a maker. His wife, Brenda, was a nurse in the oncology ward at the county hospital. Another maker, a healer. They had done everything right. I mean, everything right. They bought a small, sensible house in 1992 and paid it off in 2015. They raised 2 good kids who were out on their own. They clipped coupons. They drove their cars for 10 years. They packed their lunches. And every single month, from their very first paychecks, they put money away. Arthur had his 403B, the teacher's version of a 401k. Brenda had her 401k and a small pension from a hospital. They lived below their means diligently for 4 decades. They had a dream. It wasn't a big, flashy dream. They didn't want a yacht or a condo in Miami. They wanted a used Airstream trailer. They wanted to see the national parks. They wanted to visit their grandkids in Oregon without having to rush back for work. They had saved, between their 2 accounts, just over $1.2 million. A testament to a lifetime of discipline. And Arthur was about to set it all on fire. The problem, you see, started not with a crisis, but with a celebration. It was Christmas. The kids were home, the grandkids were loud, and the house was full. And Arthur's nephew, Kevin, came to stay for the week. Now, Kevin was a different breed. He was brilliant, no doubt about it. A genuine whiz kid with numbers. He'd gone to an Ivy League school and had been snapped up by one of those big, shiny hedge funds in New York. He was 28 years old and made more in a year than Arthur and Brenda did combined. Kevin didn't make anything. He didn't build chairs or heal patients. He structured derivatives and ran arbitrage algorithms. He was, in his own words, a quant. And one night, after the grandkids were in bed, Arthur and Kevin got a talking. Arthur, proud as he was, showed his nephew's retirement plan. He had his 403B statement, and he pointed to his allocation. Pretty much all in an S&P 500 index fund, Arthur said, with a little puff of his chest, just like that fellow Warren Buffett says. Buy and hold. I can just picture the scene. Kevin, bless his heart, probably didn't mean to be condescending. He was just from a different planet. He looked at the statement with its steady, boring 9% average annual return, and he smiled. Not a mean smile, a pitying one. That's great, Uncle Arthur, Kevin said, scrolling through something on his phone that lit up his face with green and red numbers. Super safe. It's like you're letting your money take a nap. Arthur bristled a bit. It's done just fine for us. Oh, for sure, Kevin said, not looking up. But the market's moved on. Buy and hold is for dinosaurs. You're not using your money. You're just letting it sit there while inflation eats it alive. You're leaving, God, so much on the table. And there it was, the hook, the little seed of doubt. You're leaving money on the table. For a man who had pinched pennies his whole life, who had prided himself on not being wasteful, this was like a dagger. What do you mean? Arthur asked. Kevin's eyes lit up. He was in his element now. He started talking about asymmetrical upside and hedging strategies. He pulled up an app on his phone. It was beautiful. Sleek, dark, with charts that moved in real time. It looked less like a financial tool and more like a video game. This Uncle Arthur, he said, is where the real game is played. Options, leveraged ETFs. You're worried about the market going down? You can buy a put and make money on the way down. You think a stock is going to pop on earnings? You buy a call option for pennies on the dollar, and you can control 1,000 shares. It's capital efficiency. He showed Arthur a trade he'd made. See this? I shorted a basket of European bonds against a long position in Japanese yen. Took about 45 minutes. Cleared 60 grand. Arthur just stared. $60,000. That was almost a year of his salary. In 45 minutes. It's easy, Uncle, Kevin said, mistaking Arthur's stunned silence for interest. It's all about the signals. This app, it's got AI-driven analytics. It tells you the sentiment. It practically shows you where to put the money. He helped Arthur download the app. Just put a little money in. Play with it. It's fun. It's fun. Folks, let me stop the story right here. Let me be the grandpa you trust. When anyone tells you that risking your retirement savings is fun, you run. You run as fast as you can in the other direction. Your retirement is not a game. It is not a sport. It is your life. It is your future. It's the roof over your head and the food on your table when you can no longer work. It is not fun, but Arthur was hooked. He felt that little itch. That FOMO, the fear of missing out. He saw the news. He saw houses in his neighborhood selling for triple what he'd paid. He saw these kids playing with crypto and buying Teslas. And he looked at his own steady, boring, slow-growth fund. And for the first time in his life, he felt behind. After Christmas, Kevin went back to New York. And Arthur started his secret life. He didn't tell Brenda. He knew she'd be worried. He just reallocated. That's the term he used to himself. He took $50,000 from his 403B index fund, just a small slice, he reasoned, less than 5%, and he funded his new, shiny trading account. He was going to add a little gas to their retirement. Maybe they could get a new Airstream, not a used one. Do you know what an option is? Most folks don't. Not really. They think it's just stock light. It's not. An option is a contract. It's a bet. It's a bet on where a stock price will be at a very specific time in the future, down to the day, down to the minute. and it has a time limit. It expires. It's a zero-sum game. That's what the video I watched earlier called it. For you to win $1, someone, somewhere, has to lose exactly that dollar. And do you know who Arthur, the 63-year-old woodshop teacher, was playing against? He was playing against Kevin's colleagues. He was playing against high-frequency trading algorithms that are sitting in a server right next to the stock exchange and can make 1 million trades in the blink of an eye. He was playing against billion-dollar funds that have teams of PhDs in physics and mathematics, all trying to find the tiniest microscopic edge. He was a man with a whittling knife in a tank battle, and at first, he won. Of course he won. That's how the casino gets you. The first taste is always sweet. He bought some call options on a tech company he'd read about. He put in $2,000. 3 days later, the stock popped and his app flashed green. His $2,000 was now $5,500. Ding, ding, ding. The dopamine hit, it was powerful. He felt smart. He felt alive. He, Arthur Finley, the quiet woodshop teacher, had just outsmarted Wall Street. He'd made more in 3 days than he made in 2 weeks of teaching. He did it again. He bought some puts on a company he thought was overpriced. The stock went down. Ding, ding, ding. Another $4,000. In 3 weeks, his $50,000 play money account was sitting at $78,000. He started to get cocky. He started to believe the manufactured complexity of the app. He believed the AI-driven signals were meant for him. He didn't realize that the app itself was the trap. See, these free trading apps, they aren't free. They're designed from the ground up to make you trade often. They get paid for your trades. It's called payment for order flow. They don't care if you win or lose. They just want you to spin the wheel. As the man in the video said, their only incentive is to maximize trading activity. Arthur was now a full-blown gambler. He was checking his phone in his workshop, in the faculty lounge. In the middle of dinner, Brendan noticed, of course. She thought he was just reading the news. He was an addict, and the app was his needle. He started using leverage. That's a fancy word for debt. The app offered him 3x leverage on certain trades. That meant for every $1 he put in, he could control $3 of the asset. What a wonderful invention. It magnifies your gains. But folks, what happens when you magnify a gain? You also magnify the loss. The market, as it always does, turned. It wasn't a crash. It was just a bad few days. The tech companies he loved all went down. Hard. His $78,000 account was suddenly $40,000. He'd lost all his gains and $10,000 of his own money. Now, what does a disciplined 63-year-old woodshop teacher do? He takes his lumps. He says, well, that was stupid, and he goes back to his index fund. But what does a gambler do? He doubles down. He has to win it back. He went into his 403b account. He told himself it was just to cover his position. He sold another $100,000 of his safe, secure index fund. He wired it to the trading app. He was going to make it back, and then some. He bought more options. This time they were out of the money, which meant they were cheaper and riskier, a lot riskier. He bought options on a meme stock that the kids in the internet forums were all excited about. And then the market turned again. Sharply, he got a notification on his phone. It wasn't green. It was a terrifying bright red. Margin call. A margin call is a terrible, terrible thing. It's your broker calling and saying, the bet you made with our money, it's losing. And it's losing so badly that you need to give us more money right now, or we are going to sell everything. Arthur panicked. He didn't have any more cash. He tried to call his nephew, Kevin. It went to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Kevin. I'm in a meeting, leave a message. Of course he was. He was at work, structuring derivatives. Arthur was alone. He logged into his 403B again. His hands were shaking. He sold another $200,000 worth of his S&P 500 fund, the fund that held the 500 largest, most stable companies in America, the fund that was his and Brenda's future. He sold it all to buy a few more days on a wild, desperate gamble. He wired the money. He sat there, staring at his phone, praying for the market to turn around. He was no longer an investor. He was a man at a blackjack table, all in, begging the dealer not to turn over that last card. The market did not turn around. The next morning, the brokerage firm didn't wait. The algorithm didn't care about Arthur's 38 years of teaching. It didn't care about his Airstream. It just liquidated him. It sold every position he had at the worst possible price to cover his debt. His $50,000 play money, his $100,000 cover, his $200,000 margin call. In total, Arthur Finley, the man who had spent a lifetime saving, had lost $350,000 in 4.5 months. That's when he came to my office. He'd found my name online, retirement planning. He sat across from me, his big, calloused hands, those maker's hands, clasped so tight his knuckles were white. He couldn't look me in the eye. He pushed a stack of papers across my desk. The trading statements. I think I made a mistake, he whispered. Brenda was waiting in the car. He hadn't told her. He hadn't told her that their dream of seeing the Grand Canyon was gone. He hadn't told her that he'd have to keep teaching, not for one more year, but maybe for forever? He was 63 years old, and he had lost everything that mattered. And the worst part, the part that was killing him, he'd done it to himself. We sat there for a long time, and finally I picked up the statements. I looked at the pages and pages of trades. Dozens, hundreds, little nanosecond transactions, all these complex names, all these red, negative numbers. Arthur, I said as gently as I could, you never had a chance. I explained to him what had happened. I didn't use Kevin's fancy words. I used my father's. You, Arthur, are a maker, I said. Your 403B, your index fund that was investing. That was you giving your capital to the 500 biggest makers in the country. You owned a piece of them. When they built a new factory, when they cured a disease, when they sold a product, you shared in the profit. You were helping to build the economy. But this, I said, tapping the app statements. This isn't the economy. This is a casino built on top of the economy. And it's a casino, as my friend Warren Buffett says, where the financial markets became almost totally a casino. You weren't investing. Arthur, you were speculating. I explained to him that he wasn't playing against other teachers. He was playing against a system. A system that, as the man in that video said, has grown so large that only about 15% of the money was going to that kind of productive investment. The other 85%, it's just this. A closed loop of buying and selling existing assets. Arthur, the happy-go-lucky novel trader, was financially skimmed by the professionals. The app he was using, the information asymmetry it represented, it was a lion's den, and he'd walked in, armed with a whittling knife, thinking he could take down the pride. What happened to Arthur? Well, the story isn't over. The first thing we did was tell Brenda. Together, it was the hardest conversation of his life. And Brenda, that woman, she was a saint. She was furious and hurt and terrified, but she was a nurse. She knew how to stop the bleeding. They didn't buy the Airstream. Arthur is still teaching. He'll have to for another 5 years, maybe 7. We're working on it. We put what's left of their money, and it's still a substantial amount, thank God, into a plan so secure, so boring, that it makes a turtle look like a race car. And that's just fine with him. He deleted the app. He even had a talk with his nephew, Kevin. And Kevin, the kid, was devastated. He had no idea. He just thought He just thought that's what everyone did. He was so deep in that world that he, too, had forgotten the difference between making and taking. So, here is Grandpa's lesson for today. It is, perhaps, the most important one I can give you. Know what game you are playing. When you put your retirement money into a simple, low-cost index fund, you are investing. You are betting, slowly and patiently, on the long-term success of human ingenuity and American business. You are a maker. When you download a flashy app and start trading options or leverage funds or currencies or whatever new crypto-FT coin they've invented this week, you are speculating. You are not playing the same game. You have entered the casino. And the first rule of that casino was, and always will be, the house always wins. The finance industry is supposed to be the oil and the engine of our economy, but we've let it get so big that we're submerged in the oil. It's in our lungs. It's attracting our brightest minds, like Kevin, not to cure cancer or build bridges, but to figure out how to shave a microsecond off a trade. Your retirement savings are the only thing that will stand between you and a cat food dinner when you are 80. Do not treat it like fun money. Do not let anyone, not even your brilliant nephew, tell you that your patient, disciplined, boring plan is for dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, you might recall, ruled the earth for a very, very long time. Be a maker. Be a builder. Be an investor. Don't be a gambler. Not with the rest of your life. You worked too hard for it. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.